Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Excel Radio's Ask the Expert. Brought to you by Beck Shot Photography and Video. It's your story. Make it awesome. For more information, go to beckshot.com. Now, here's your host.
We are in the studio today with Stone and Robert again. Hi, Stone. How have you been?
I am doing well. I've played all summer. It's great to get back in the saddle again.
The last time we did this, you made me run that devil machine over there. And I'm going to let you do that today.
All right, I got you, baby.
Earn your keep, son.
And Robert Mason's here, the real estate master.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm good, man. Can't complain. Nobody's going to listen anyways.
Got that right. But they're listening to the show.
They're listening to the show.
So we got a great show today.
Yep.
With a very special guest that Robert invited. Robert, introduce your guest.
Our guest today, well, we've got two gentlemen here. Mayo Sowell is my neighbor, and he literally lives right next to me. And he's the senior pastor of LIIV Atlanta, and he played football at Auburn.
War Eagle.
We won't say go War Eagle again here on the show today. Promise. Go Dogs. And we've got Will Aldridge, his sidekick, who we're real happy to have on air today as well. So welcome in, gentlemen.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
So before we start, I just have to say one thing, because I had to apologize the other day. I got an Alabama fan in one of my groups, and I had to tell him, but this will be good. My nephew just got accepted to the School of Architecture at Auburn.
Oh, praise. Congratulations.
And because he's like valedictorian and all this, he's starting almost a year ahead of his colleagues. So he'll go straight into the labs and the practical stuff while the others are taking their leveling courses and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good school to get in, but especially on that basis, I think that's going to be a good experience for him.
He's going to love it.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, Shan Morris, he played football at Auburn back in the 80s, and we grew up together. So I see him a lot, and he's always plying those Auburn Tigers.
We need to be.
Now,
we need prayer.
Isn't Clemson the Tigers also?
Yeah,
Yes.
they are.
Yeah. So there's a good rivalry there, right?
I think Auburn just stole one of our recruits, a linebacker, if I'm not mistaken, from Georgia.
Yeah, it was a 5-star.
Yeah.
We flipped him.
Flipped our linebacker.
Yeah.
Wow.
They need the help, though. Auburn does.
Oh my goodness, low blow. No, we do need. I'm actually living here in Atlanta now. I'm kind of a Tech, Bulldog, Falcon fan. So I'm moving over. I do have an allegiance to Auburn, but I'm here. I'm proximity now. Yeah. So
Did you grow up in Alabama?
I was born in L.A. and I grew up in Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
So I was an LSU guy. Yeah. A little bit of UCLA guy. So I'm
a little bit of everything.
So I guess, when it comes to saying hook 'em horns, this is the wrong crowd.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. We won't talk Bijan Robinson today.
Yeah, right.
Today.
So we've got a fantastic story to tell here, or Mayo's got a fantastic story to tell here. And really, Mayo's incredible journey in life is a 3-part series. It should be a freaking mini-series as far as I'm concerned. So, Mayo, let's break it down kind of like what you and I talked about, years 0 through 25, 25 through, where you're at now.
Yeah, it's, Robert say, it's been a journey, and, I think the journey is still going, but, for time's sakes, we will start at that young age where I was born, like I said, in L.A. And my parents, they did the California lifestyle in the 80s. So I was born in the 80s, and we just had, we had rough times in the big city. And my dad was struggling; he was trying to find his career. And my mom, she was being a young lady in L.A. And they decided to move to Louisiana. And at that time, the marriage wasn't, it wasn't as healthy as it should be, I would say. And I just grew up, seeing my mom and dad argue and fuss and fight and stuff. And probably around the age of 13, 14, I started playing sports. And at that time, when I really, fell in love with basketball, that was my first sport. I played basketball. My mom and dad got a divorce. And my mom decided to just run away from my dad one morning when he went to work. And she was like, she just came and gave me some, a trash bag. And she was like, hey, fill this trash bag up with your clothes. I was like, okay. And I filled it up, and we left, and we went all the way to Birmingham, Alabama. And that's where we stayed. And my dad, wasn't in my life at that time. And my mom was working somewhere, and she met this guy that was a Christian. and he was a believer, and his name was they call him Dick Gardner, but his name was Robert Gardner. And he was like, "Hey, Mayo, I really love for you to play with my sons." So I started playing with his son, and his son, mentored me a little bit. And that's when I really fell in love with basketball, and I started to take it serious. And then they was like, "Hey, Mayo, why don't you try football?" I was like, "I don't play football. I just play basketball." And I excelled at football my first year. And that's when I started getting recruited and stuff. And Auburn ended up recruiting me, Alabama, LSU, all the schools in the SEC. And I chose to go to Auburn University. And at that time, when I went to Auburn, I was like, I was pretty good in football, but I just couldn't stay focused. I was going out partying, drinking, just doing the college thing. And I just had those bad habits. And, ultimately I got an opportunity to go to the NFL. Went to the NFL, and that was my first time experiencing Atlanta. A black guy with money in Atlanta, with no values or no morals or anything, but just that's an accident waiting to happen. Because we moved to Atlanta, my guys, we said, hey, what? Like we told each other, we was like, hey. So a friend of mine went number 2 pick to the Miami Dolphins. Another guy went number 5 to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Cadillac Williams. Another guy went number 7 to the Washington Redskins. Then another one went 17 to the Washington Redskins. So all these guys, just millions of dollars. So I'm a friend. What's my responsibility? Help them spend their money. So we all decided like, hey, let's just be friends. Just help each other spend our money. So we decided, we was like, hey, where are we going to live at? Like, let's just after the off season, let's live in the same space so we can hang together. And we was like, well, Atlanta, we heard the ratio is 16-1.
Yeah.
So we was like, that makes sense. We got money. We got women, 16-1. I can deal with those odds.
Yeah.
So we moved to Atlanta, and man, we just went on this journey. The 16-1, it was just fast living, and it just overtook me. And I ended up at that time I got cut from Buffalo Bills because I couldn't keep up. I'm living this type of life off the field, and I just couldn't keep up. Then I tore my ACL. So I'm back in Atlanta. And at that time.
Is that your rookie year?
Yes.
Okay.
And at that time, Robert, I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I graduated from college. I did get a degree, but I'm like, am I going to start all the way over? So I tried real estate. That didn't work.
That's what your father was in real estate.
Yeah, my dad was in real estate. So I tried what I knew my dad was in. So I tried real estate. I didn't have the patience. And I just had this bright idea one day. Well, in the nightlife, 3 people are glorified: the athlete, the rapper, and the drug dealer. Like, in culture, in the nightlife at that time, it was 3 people that was glorified. I was like, okay, I can't play and be the athlete anymore because my ACL is gone. I can't rap because I can barely hold a beat. I'm not going to grow cornrows out and be a rapper. Can't do that. So I was like, hey, what about this third option? Sell drugs. So, as you met my dad, Robert, we're very entrepreneurial. My whole family is just very entrepreneurial. See something, do something, get something, recruit something, do something, make something. That's just us. And I gave it a shot. I started, went on my venture and I started selling drugs. I started with marijuana and then just continued to grow. And I did that for 6 years. And I was doing a deal down in Arizona. And I obtained everything that I wanted. I had all the cars my friends had. I had all the money they had. I had everything. And I was doing a deal down in Arizona. And little did I know I was doing a deal with the federal government. Oops. I remember like it was yesterday, buddy. A car came across the parking lot going 40 miles per hour. And I was like, man, this car's about to hit us. We was in the parking lot, it's kind of broken the deal. And I seen on the shirt of the person driving, it said DEA. Then the lady next door with the baby in the basket, she came out with a firearm, DEA. Ooh. Then the guy walking on the corner in the trench coat looking homeless, DEA. It was a sting. The guy that we was doing work with, he was a federal informant. And at that time, we was in Arizona. They took us away. It was two of my friends. And I seen a piece of paper came under the door and it said Mayo Sowell versus the United States of America. Now, this is not Mayo Sowell versus like Atlanta, Fulton County. No, this is I would say, year to date, the strongest, well-established nation ever versus Mayo Sowell. I didn't know what to do. And I was facing a minimum of 15 years of life. My other friend was facing a minimum of 30 to life. And my other one was facing a minimum of 47 to life. And I was like, what am I going to do? And, man, it was, I mean, I can go on and on. Like,
Did you call your dad?
I was scared to call my dad. I called my mom. I called home the next day and I called my mom and it said, you have a collect call from a federal prison in, I was in Florence, Arizona. To accept, press 6. To decline, press 9.
Oh, wow.
She pressed 6. At the other end of the phone, it was, hey, Mom, this Mayo. She hung up. Unbelief. I had to wait to call 30 minutes because you got to call in 30-minute intervals. So I called back. She's screaming. No, my baby. I'm like, yeah. And man, it was just, life hit me right there in the face and I kind of woke up.
How old were you then?
That's a great question. I don't keep up with age anymore. I think I was
27, 28.
5, 27. Right. I think I want to say 26. And it hit me. So I could either, it hit me. Like I had a decision. I could have went down in a shell, but if you go down in a shell in prison right then, you can be taken advantage of you because now you become vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Or you had to numb up, puff up to not become vulnerable. So I had to numb quick. I had to real quick. And it was chaos because I was in Arizona at that time. In Arizona, it's gang. Like down south, like we may do a little gangs. Out west, oh no, it's gangs. You got the natives. You got the they call them the chiefs. You got the Españols. You got the Sereños. You got the Norteños. You got the Mexican mafia. You got the whites. You got the like dirty white boys they call them. Now you have Aryan Brotherhood. Like it's territorial. So it's not. Let me think about my time. No, let me think about my life right now. These 5 minutes because they can take it. So it was chaotic. But it was. Hey, listeners, I'm sorry about this story right now. Somebody probably in the car like, what is happening right now? Robert, are you sure this is your neighbor? How often do you stare out your window at your neighbor?
Mayo.
I'm his neighbor, y'all. I promise. We're neighbors, and we're good neighbors. We're happy neighbors.
Yeah, we are. We love each other. There was a time.
And of course, the disclosure, right? All the people portrayed in this show are real. These are real characters.
These are real people, real grass, like real traffic in the cul-de-sac.
It happens, man. There was a Sunday where we had an incident in my house where a guy came to my door who was arrested the day before, who broke into somebody's house in the neighborhood and ran off all of a sudden. So we've got this strange incident going on with a neighbor. We didn't even know. And so this guy on a Sunday comes to my door and we've got Ring doorbell and we saw him coming up the driveway and we knew exactly, we were like, oh no, it's that guy. It's the guy that's going to break in. Yeah. And so my wife and I, we have code words and we have action plans in place when things might happen. So hers is call the police, get her Glock 27, and mine's to grab shotgun, rifle, whatever is appropriate.
Glock 27.
Well, yeah, a shotgun's appropriate for one coming up the driveway, in my opinion, because I'm
a 1911 man.
Don't hurt the neighbors, right? Don't penetrate and hit any of the neighbors if anything goes down. So this guy comes up and I run him off. I'm like, dude, you need to leave my house right now. Wife's calling 911 and they came and the guy escaped.
Yeah.
And so I think it was the next night.
I'm out of town, by the way. My wife is blowing my phone up. I am nervous. But praise God, she's in a group text with him.
Yeah.
Robert's next door.
So now I'm in this group text and I see his preparation. I'm like, I don't never need to come back. You okay? Trust me. Whatever I'm going to do, I promise you, he's going to do it 1,000 times better.
We're going to get there.
Yeah.
And so your wife hit me up and she goes, there's somebody banging on the door.
This is the next day, the next night.
Yeah. And it's dark. And so I grab a handgun and I go bolting out, and it's you, Mayo.
It's me. He don't know it's me. I'm beating on the door because, okay, you wives, they lock every door.
Yeah.
Like, why do they lock doors? No, we live here to not lock doors.
Yeah.
But she locks every door. So I'm beating on the door and I said, hey, I hear, hey, who are you?
Yeah.
I'm like, Rob, this Mayo, bro, this Mayo. Yeah.
So I had to apologize real quick.
It was amazing.
Well, I find it's good to announce myself when I'm showing up at his house too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably
Good announcement.
Yeah. We heard you coming way earlier yesterday.
Walk me through this. How does someone get to the point where they want to become a drug dealer? I mean, I understand if you get you live in Compton, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the only path you can take, and it just kind of happens to you by circumstance. All of a sudden, you're surrounded by it. Yeah. How do you walk down a path where you say, this is what I want to do?
I would say it's the same. This is going to be a horrible illustration. I would say it's the same thing as Robert walking down the path and wanting to do real estate. You know, he knew it. He's seen an opportunity. He's seen a void, and he's seen that he can learn it. However, it was a resource that was close to him. So it's a lot of guys in the inner city. Now, my journey was different because I wasn't in the inner city because I had to go in. But there's a lot of guys in the inner city, and they see that resource next to them. They see a void. They see a need, and they be like, hey, this is a quick way. Let me learn it and do it. So for me, everyone around Atlanta, you know, they would smoke this high level marijuana. I seen a need. Let me fill a void. Let me learn how to do it. That's how I walked into it. Now it grew as course, you know, we probably know real estate guys that get in, you know, I would say residential, and then all of a sudden it grows to commercial, and it, you know, but the same thing, it grew on me. And, the bottom line, it was just pride, ego to get this lifestyle with someone with glorified Mayo at the end of the day. And it was by this word right here that we say sometimes, these words, by any means necessary, I will get back to it. And that was it. It was the quickest route.
So are you saying that's a cultural issue? Because
no, I'm not saying it's a cultural issue as much as I'm saying it's the easier issue culturally. It's just, it's easier to get to it, to go get, like, I would say it's 5 people away. Like, maybe in Decatur, in the inner city of Decatur, you can go to 5 people and you can get a bag of weed. Whereas right here in Marietta, I can go to 5 people and get a piece of real estate. It's kind of, you know, it's almost who you know. It's the circle. You know, they say, you know, you show me your friends, I can show you your future.
Right. 5 people you hang around with the most. That's what you're going to be.
Yeah, you know, and it's just, you know, so that's why I believe in diversity so much, because now my network has changed because my friends have changed. You know, so now just where I can go left and go 5 people away and probably get a bag of marijuana, now I can go right and go 5 people away and get a piece of real estate. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think diversity is so huge. And I think it's a lot of things that try to keep us divided so that we can't use the resources from each other. And I think that's this huge problem.
Now, you mentioned the rule of 5 people. I hear that a lot lately. It's been coming up a lot. It's becoming a theme out there. Basically, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's right.
You believe that? Is that a valid philosophy to you?
Do I believe it's this is gamble. Would I gamble on it? I would gamble and say yes. I don't know if it's proven, but I would take that bet. That's a good bet. That if I spend time with 5 people, I will become the sum total of them. I take that bet.
You know, deceived, bad company corrupts good morals.
That is a great piece of literature in the Bible. Yeah.
I hear that one's been translated a few times.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah. 1,000 times. Yeah.
So what made the difference for you? Here you are sitting in this prison.
Yep.
You get hard. You're looking around, you know, I mean, on any given day, your life is a question you got to answer, right?
Yeah.
So now what? What happens next?
So I end up coming back to Atlanta because I bond out from Arizona. I came back to Atlanta, but I'm still waiting on how much time they're going to give me. What's my sentence going to be? So I stayed out for a year and a half, and it got worse. You know, I say I took more risk because I knew I was either going to go on the run or I was going to go to prison. So I took bigger risk. You know, so and a friend of mine, I was going to go on the run. I wasn't going to go to court. I wasn't going to go back to Arizona and go to court. I was just going to go on the run, take a chance. And I called a friend of mine. And it's crazy how, like in the Bible, it has this story of God speaking through a donkey. And I don't know anyone's faith. I'm not into, this is not a faith talk or whatever, but it's just my faith in this Bible, it shows God speaking through a donkey. And what the point of is the story, God can speak to anyone or anything. So, I called a guy and he's not a man of faith. He doesn't I wasn't even a man of faith. And I say, man, I think I'm not going. You know what he said to me? He said, bro, just go. For some reason, I think you're going to get your life back and it's going to be better. I'm like, hold on. You're the guy that's going to encourage me and tell me how to go. Like, what do you mean go? I think you're going to get your life back and it's going to be better. First of all, you don't even say better out of your mouth. Like, that's not even in your vocabulary. So it threw me off. I'm like, am I talking to the police? Like, are you the feds? Like, what's going on? And I went. Sure enough, I went. And the judge, when I went before the judge, they gave my co-defendants, one of them, they gave 16 years. The other one, they gave 37 years. And now I'm about to get sentenced. They sentenced all three of us, 37, 16. And now he gets to me, the oldest judge on the United States Circuit, Judge Carroll. He says, and that's a whole nother story right there, because side note, our lawyers was from New Jersey and they wanted our lawyers for racketeering and conspiracies and everything. So they throwing heavy time at us. So I'm like, they about to give me 10 years. He said, Mayo, for some reason, I think you're going to get it right. I'm going to give you, under the mandatory minimum, I'm going to give you 50 months. So 50 months is right about 4.5 years. So he ended up giving me 50 months. So I go to prison for 50 months. For 40 of those months, all I did was connect with people and think about how to do what I did better. So prison is a school. Mm-hmm. It's a school. So you can sit under different philosophies on how to do things. Like it's a diverse school. So now you have Spanish people in there. Now you have a closer pipeline to where it come from. You got Colombian. Like it's just it's a school. And that's all I did. Network. Think about how I'm gonna do it better. Until 10 months ago, here's my diversity. A white guy came across the racial lines and said, could I pray for you? Now, at that time, I'm like, why would I don't need, there's nothing you can do for me. He laid his hands on me and he prayed for me. Everything cold turkey. Everything. Now, it's PG-13, what we're doing right here. In prison, it's no females. So it's like, I didn't even have that desire anymore. And I went back to my unit and I'm like, where's that desire go? So now I'm like, I'm checking all my desires. I'm like, do I want to go back to Atlanta and sell drugs again? Because I had 2 restaurants in Atlanta. I was doing music. I was doing a lot of things. I didn't want to go. So I went back to him. I said, hey, what happened with my desires? Where did they go? And he said, that's God. I can't even tell you where they went. So it intrigued me to meet the God that took my desires. And he gave me the Bible. So he said, you'll find that God in his book right here. So I'm studying this book, looking for this guy named God that took my desires that I want back. I'm in prison. I can't do nothing. Let me have them. I couldn't get them back. Took me on this journey. And I fell in love with Jesus. Everything changed from that point on. For the remainder of the time, it took me maybe a month and a half to figure out this is something supernatural. For that rest of the time, I said, I would like to learn how to help other people come free of what I was in bondage to. Fear, insecurity, money, pride, power, position, everything. I want to spend the rest of my life trying to help people break free. And that's when I sold my life. I call my guys in Atlanta. I say, yo, I'm not coming back. And they're like, no, you got to come back. You have all the connections. Well, I only got one connection I know about right here. in his name is Jesus. It's like, yo, you got to come back. You got to come back. I'm not coming back. Call my dad. I said, Dad, can I come home and move with you? He's like, sure. Went home, moved in with him. And
he was in what, Birmingham?
He's in Birmingham. Yep. He's in Birmingham, Alabama. So I'm like, man, I got to learn how to give people this hope in a pliable way. So I'm like, I'm called to be a pastor, I think, but I don't know how to pastor people, so I got to learn. So I get out of prison. Robert, here you go. Here you go again. I'm like, hey, I'm out of prison now. Okay. I got to get trained. What do? I got to find a pastor. Black guy. Let me find a black pastor. That's what I'm thinking. Like, yes, come on, guys. I know you're listening and you're riding your car and that's like, you thinking the same thing. Black guy, black pastor. Okay. That's what I'm thinking. But I had an ankle monitor on and I can only go to church within a 5-mile radius. And a tree just fell through my parents' house on one side of town and they just moved before I got out of prison on another side of town. Guess what? It's only one church in a 5-mile radius. It wasn't a black church. It was a white church. I'm like, okay, God, I'm here. And, so this is not adding up right. Like, what's going on? And I meet the pastor. The pastor said, hey, I want to shake some hands. I'm going to be out in the lobby. That's 2,400 people in this room. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to shake his hand. Like, everybody's going to be in line. He got to hug every baby and kiss every grandma. Nobody was in line. And I said, well, God, if I can ask him. And he said, yes, that's how I know it's you. And I asked him and he said, you a pastor? I said, no, I'm something else with another P word, but not a pastor. Yeah. And he said, no, you're a pastor. I said, well, actually, I'm a federal prisoner and I'm on probation. And here's my ankle monitor. And I showed it to him. And he said, you're a pastor. He ended up scholarshiping me to Highlands College, sending me to Highlands Ministry School, hiring me on staff, bought my first vehicle, made sure I had clothes. I didn't have anything. I left every dime that I had in Atlanta. And he helped me get on my feet. And I said, this is the guy that I serve the rest of my life.
So God was speaking through him as
Absolutely.
He spoke through the gentleman in your prison.
Yep.
And the circumstances.
And the circumstances and your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
And now Will. Will, you hear this, you know this story. Tell us how Mayo's doing.
I'm thankful for his leadership, much like the pastor he mentioned did for him. In many ways, he did for me. I grew up in faith, but never really made it mine until college and when I went through some family things. And I was actually in ministry school at the time, and I actually had to complete a certain amount of work hours, internship hours with ministries in order to graduate. And so I had known the church that he came from, Church of Highlands. They had a campus in Auburn, and that's where I was at. And through a connection there, they were like, hey, Pastor Mayo's going to Atlanta to launch a church, and he's going to need interns to get this thing off the ground. And I was like, well, I got to get a degree, so like I'll do it. And so I came in. It's just the intentionality and the availability of like a pastor to be there. He uses the word proximity a lot. And I was just around him, and there's just something so attractive about the way he lives his life that I was like, I'm not going back to school that I'm literally 2 classes away from graduating.
Yeah.
I'm staying in Atlanta because like I'll do whatever he wants me to do because he's poured so much into me. He sees where I want to be. He's trying to grow me, to disciple me, to get to where God's ultimately called me to be. But he just put his hand all over it. He's like, Will, I see where you want to go. I'll help you get there. Yeah. And so much like the pastor did for him, he's been doing for countless people here, me included. So he's doing amazing.
It's a funny thing about mentoring young people or mentoring people in particular. I've been blessed starting with a great grandfather. His name was Meyer Bloomberg. And back in the 40s and 50s, Meyer lived in Memphis, Tennessee. And Jews couldn't hold public office in Memphis, Tennessee back in the 50s. And so Meyer was such a strong person back in those days that he couldn't run for mayor. So there was a mayor in charge, but Meyer was the mayor in back of the mayor. Wow. And when the mayor retired after 8 years in Memphis, his leaving office speech was about Meyer Bloomberg, my great-grandfather. And it was amazing. I heard that story a couple of years before my father died. And my father pulls out this speech, and here I'm 54 years old or 50, whatever. I'd never heard this about my grandfather or my great-grandfather. And Mayo, you are that kind of person from the very first time I saw you when you moved in. You're waving. I'm waving at your kids. I'm like, who's this guy? I mean, yeah, he's all right. This looks good. Because the neighborhood that you and I live in is like the UN. There's everybody.
It's everybody.
Every single type of person there. And I love it that way. I mean, like Diwali will come and we'll be shooting off fireworks like we did last year in the cul-de-sac. And then this other family from Afghanistan will walk. It's just, I love it. And you talk about diversity and you really live that.
Yeah. Yes. It's important. It's important because I've been impacted by more than one. So it's only right to give to more than one, so, in some sorts, I think we've all been impacted by more than one, so. Yeah.
I have a philosophy, and these guys haven't even heard it because we don't get to talk about it
This is big.
In our
when
meetings.
someone comes in, I have a philosophy. This is big.
It's getting ready to launch.
And I'm going to get you guys to discuss it. I want to hear your feedback. But in these groups we run in, we don't get to talk about this much. So we all go through stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we have crises, and crisis produces opportunity, and opportunity gives you some learning, and you can develop good things out of it, right? But nowhere in there does anybody ever talk about purpose. What's the purpose of going through all that? I think it's kind of like the pay it forward idea. I think what you do in life enables you, empowers you, gives you what you need to bless other people.
Yeah. Correct.
Going through similar things.
Correct.
Discuss.
Well, when you leave this life, right, and people are at your funeral, you can't take anything with you, right? So there's that. The people that are sitting there are the testimony to your life. Those around you, whether it be your children, whether it be your friends, whether it be the Wills, the Stones, they are going to be the testament. Did you do it right or did you do it wrong?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with Robert and piggyback. I agree with you totally. I think that's biblical. If you think about crises, you think about, pain, you think about purpose. If you just go to the epitome of Jesus Christ, he went through a crisis. He went through pain to leave a story so we won't have to go through it. And I think that's everyone's call in life is the pain that you take on. Let's make sure that you go through it, and your purpose is no one behind you will go through the same thing.
Right. There's some reasoning behind it.
Yeah, it's reason. But sometimes people, what happened in the middle of their pain, they start to get selfish. And they only see them being out of their pain instead of seeing what they're in their pain for. They end up paying for the people behind them.
So we're talking about greed. Yeah. Eventually it turns into greed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Power breeds greed.
Or validation or whatever it is they're seeking for.
Right. So it goes back to your statement, pay it forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So clearly you went through this experience.
Yes, sir.
You got that calling, that motivation to bless other people. Your church and being a pastor is the way you do that. Tell us about LIIV Atlanta. What's that like?
LIIV Atlanta is living now. We're 9 months old. I moved over to Atlanta maybe a year and a half ago, and I was Robert's neighbor, and we still are neighbors. And I mean, he's seen me in the infancy stages of it when we was just having like launch parties in the basement, and we launched last year, September the 18th. And we worked hard, we prayed hard, we prepared hard, we prepped hard. And that first day, we seen over 1,000 people show up to the first service.
Wow!
Yeah. And right now we're just right in the 600s. 9 months in, and we just pushing. I mean, the LIIV is LIIV, and it's a story behind that also. But in short, it stands for love, because our church, we are going to love every human that walk in the door, despite their deficits. We're going to love them despite. That's our job, is to love them. We're going to operate with a high level of integrity, because people deserve to trust us, myself included. That's why I'm big on proximity. I believe it's hard to go wrong when somebody's in your mess. Like when you this close to me, like I can't go with Susie. I'm sorry. I'm with Robert. And Robert sees Susie and he see me flirt at Susie. No, Mayo, we can't do that. So proximity is huge. So we believe in integrity. That's the second I. I mean, the first I. And the second I is influence. Because I didn't use my influence properly the first time, this time I want to use it right the second time. So we use our influence to help others up and push them forward, and then victory. We all want to experience the victory of Jesus Christ, and that is LIIV Atlanta. And we believe every human deserves love, integrity, influence, and victory.
We had another friend of mine,
something.
Jim McCrae.
Just listening to him,
Yeah.
the LIIV needs to have the E on the end, and the E would be for excellence.
Excellence. It's huge.
I can feel it.
Yeah.
We had another
Serious.
pastor friend of mine, Jim McCrae, who was head of that church in Canton that I told you about.
Yes, sir.
That situation, Stone, remember, him and his wife were in. Same kind of vibe of how he lives his life now. Purpose, and his purpose is to speak the gospel, is to educate those around us, and he's doing a great job. And Mayo, you are doing an exceptional job. This is year 1. And you had 1,000 show up day 1, and now you've got a congregation of 600. It's going to build, my friend, and it's because of you. And people like Will that are sitting right next to you, man. They love you. We love you, and people are going to support you.
And I don't take that lightly, because as a leader, and hopefully you guys is listening, still love me a little bit, but as a leader, my biggest thing is insecurity. I get insecure because, of what I see, and I'm like, can I do it? But that's why that statement means so much to me, because just like the guy that God spoke through him said, hey, you're gonna get your life back. My pastor, God spoke through him, hey, you're a pastor. I take those words that you just said the same way. And I'm so grateful for it. Seriously, I'm so grateful for it, because it speaks to the thing that I think about the most. Am I good enough?
And Mayo, all of us go through those moments of, am I gonna be able to honor the person that's next to me? Yeah. Like, I think that with my wife. I live a purposeful life to honor my wife and my children as well. And so, like social media, for instance, she's got a nickname, Holy Bear, and she's, I put funny pictures of us, and, I don't take it too seriously or try to influence in a way that's not me real.
Yeah.
And, Randy has a unique situation being in the Navy and being side by side some of the nation's toughest warriors. And
thank you guys for your services.
Well, that's Randall. And I have done a lot of shooting and a lot of stuff with some guys, Green Berets, SEALs, and to every one of those guys, they will say, yeah, I was not sure of myself for a large part of my terms in the service. He's like, but it was a guy next to me. I had to knuckle up. I had to put that extra weight on. I had to do what I had to do for the guy that was sitting next to me. I could not let that guy down. And that's what leadership is all about.
We call them swim buddies, and they have an enormous influence on you, right? It's like the 5 people theory, right? But in the Navy, it's all about your swim buddy. Yep. That's the guy you don't let down. That's the guy you take care of. That's the one with the big influence.
Do y'all really swim next to each other?
In training and stuff, yeah. And it's like a
they're
cohort thing. You're paired together, and yeah.
Who was your swim buddy?
He's gone now.
Yeah.
Yep. So the point I wanted to make of that was that influence from the people around you is one thing, right? But you're talking about insecurity. Nearly every one of those guys had they felt like they had something to prove to the world, right? Which you might call that insecurity, you might not, I don't know. But the idea was, I think I can do more. I want to do more. I need to prove to the world that I can.
That's important.
Yeah. And sometimes you can't.
And in war,
sometimes it takes that buddy to pull it out of you, Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
You sink or you swim.
Yeah. Sink or swim. Yeah.
And that's what we all do in life. Whether it's being in real estate, whether it's being a pastor, whether it's being a businessman, we sink and swim by the decisions that we make every single day. And we better hold ourselves accountable. Because, okay, there may be nobody watching, but you know what? There is somebody watching.
All the time. Yeah.
And he's much larger than anything we've ever thought of.
Yeah. Agree.
So the guy that was gone, his name was Phil, and Phil was always watching.
Always.
But I was always watching too. And everybody has that experience. And ideas fade, and the group can be something you like and also something you don't like, but that buddy you're not going to let down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I guess in the Christian world nowadays, they talk a lot about accountability partners, but that's not really the same thing. It can be close to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Because accountability, you're only good. Your accountability is only good as what you let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
This swim buddy, that's different.
He knows everything.
He's a buddy. He's there.
You know, you're in the same stateroom. You're on the same training. You're in the same mission.
You have
they
no
know
option.
everything.
You have no option not to let them in.
If you fart in your sleep, they know it.
Hey, bro, you got gas. You had gas last night. Hey, and I stayed up.
That's right.
Yeah, you had gas, bro.
So where do you go from here, Mayo? Tell me, I know you've got your church up and running, and so tell me how this all evolves.
So where we go from here, of course, we are in Riverwood High School right now. So we're a portable church. That means
That's where I went to high school.
Really?
Yep.
That's cool. Yeah, so we're in Riverwood High School, and we're a portable church. So that means we go in every Sunday and we set up. We get there 4:30, 5 o'clock, and we set up and we make it a church, and we take it down after the service, after the 11:30 service. So of course we would be praying and, I would say just waiting for God to just, bless us financially to get our permanent location. And we want to move into a permanent location. We do have a vision, not to only be in one location, but we want several other locations around the city of Atlanta and hopefully, Georgia. So like Will, my job, I think, Will is called to be a pastor. So Will would like to pastor a location. So whether or not Will's location is in Atlanta, Will has Chattanooga on his heart. He and I was driving. He was like, I think I'm called to go to Chattanooga one day. Pastor, help me get there. I'm like, okay, I'll help you get there. So it will be a LIIV Chattanooga one day, hopefully. So that's the vision, for God to just continue to send great people, because I think great organizations, you can't be great without great people. And, he's sending some great people thus far, and we're just praying for great people. We pray for two things, 2 P's. The presence of God. Because Mayo can't change anyone. God can. The presence of God. It's my job to love them. And then great people. Because great people begets great people. So that's the 2 things that we pray for. And hopefully we become a permanent location here in the middle of next year sometime.
So permanent location, what does that look like? What type of space, where, what county, what city?
Yep, that's a great question. So permanent location would look like right now, for what we have to accommodate us, we would need 35,000 square feet or higher. So if you get down into the 22s, it now becomes, it's not convenient for young families to bring their kids and check their kids in. It's crowded, parking lot small. So you need probably 31,000 square feet or higher. So I would like to stay somewhere close to the 285 loop, not going past, I would say, Peachtree Corners. Okay. So Buckhead, Vinings, Sandy Springs, not Camp Creek, maybe stop at Smyrna, right there for the first permanent LIIV location. So, I would say Alpharetta is too far. Canton is too far. Where we are right now is,
Woodstock.
Woodstock. I think that's too far north. I would like to start urban.
Okay.
I would like to start urban because they say 98%. They say 90 to 98% of the people within the perimeter is unchurched.
Well, there's a real problem in commercial real estate these days. And so there are a lot of opportunities. And if I'm I'm looking at some shopping center space that people are pulling in and out of. I mean, you look at Lennox and Phillips and Phipps. I mean, no one's going over there anymore. Nobody's going to these malls. Yeah. And these malls might be a good place for you to start.
Yeah. I think it's
probably
a
lot
great
of
time.
Space available too.
Tons of space.
Some of the office buildings.
You're doing remote work now because of COVID.
the
leftovers of COVID.
Right.
So it's a lot going on. So I
don't know what would be wrong with being in an office building for that matter.
I mean, nothing would be wrong.
Just have the open space.
If you can get the right
down.
configuration that you want.
Yeah. So that's what we're looking for. I mean, we're not picky. We just want to have someone with great people in the presence of God. I think it'd be great.
I love the story. I love the spirit you brought it in with this. And what's going to happen here is people that are going to find this recording are going to be at a decision point.
Right.
That's why it's going to be brought to them, to their attention.
Right.
So what do you have to say to that person?
At the decision point?
When he finds this, he's in a crisis, he or she, they're in a crisis. They're trying to make a decision. They're trying to figure out what their life's about.
Yep.
before we go, what do you have to say to that person?
So, I'm doing this collection of talks on try this, meaning I'm doing a sermon series, 3 weeks, and the whole idea is try this, try this, try this. Now you might ask, that person might say, okay, Mayo, I hear you. They're listening right now. Okay, what do you mean try? Try what? They've tried everything. They tried to escape in the bottle. They tried to escape in the pill. They tried to escape in porn, whatever it may be. They tried that. So try this, try prayer. And to make it simple, I'm giving them the shortest prayer to pray. 3 words. Lord, help me. 3 words. Try this. I'm not telling them to go to a church. I'm not telling them to get accountability. I'm not telling them to give. I'm not telling them to get baptized. I'm telling them to try this. Lord, help me. I believe I can look them in the eye and I can look God in the eye and say I led them right. I never see him again. And I will never meet him. Lord, help me. Try this.
That's pretty powerful.
I don't think I have anything to add to that.
What do you say after that?
Yeah. I say thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
No, thank you guys for having
I
me.
really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah.
no,
I'm so
thank you,
glad
guys.
that this happened. Yeah. Mayo, you're a special person. And Will, man, your journey's just beginning.
It is. I'll follow this guy.
Sounds like it's going to get fun.
Yeah, it is.
someday.
Lord help
is.
Will.
No, I pray that. Like, no, I take the me out and I say Will. Lord, help Will. Why? And God says this. Why, Mayo, does Will need help? Because he deals with me.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah, because he deals with me. And then I'm going to change it. Lord, help my wife. Why, Mayo? Because she deal with me.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
That's a song.
There you have it, everybody. Excel with Mayo.
Yep.
Yeah, thank y'all so
And
much.
we're gonna have you back, and we're gonna follow up, and we're gonna see how this is
I'm
going
really
for you.
interested to hear
I
how
can't
the
say
growth
no to
happens
my
with this.
neighbor.
No,
Thank y'all.
because I'm gonna hound you in the front yard.
I really want to hear the growth of the church. I'm very interested to see how this goes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.